Thank you very much for accepting that I will have this presentation in the English language, which also gives me a perfect opportunity to express my absolute thanks to the interpreters of this colloquium. You did a fantastic job 2 years ago, and you're doing a very good job this year too. Thank you very much. This really helps this European colloquium here in Slovenia to be such a success. Thank you. As I would also very much like to thank Slovenko and his team for organizing this colloquium and for giving me another opportunity to attend this event, which I really appreciated last year and this year too. I started that I do not speak any Slovenian, so I expect that what's written here is correct. Otherwise, the program isn't in the right format. May I ask you who did not attend this colloquium 2 years ago? Okay, a few of you. Please allow those of you who attended last time, please allow that I will start with a catch-up, which you might know. Oh, no, this has been my presentation last time, 2 years ago, same title. A few things have changed, huh? So it's a new layout, it's a new date. I'm working for Eurobitum ARBIT, so for Eurobitum in Germany, and not only for ARBIT. But please be sure also something of the content has changed. So this is not going to be a repetition of what I said 2 years ago. The title of this presentation is On Our Way to Performance-Related Specification. That is, we are going step by step. We moved on, and I would like to give you a report on the state of the art where we are at the moment. But a way, especially those ways, are never ending, right? So the way will continue. I can give you a small forecast into the future, but I'm pretty sure that the way will not be finished next year or in 2 years' time, and maybe not even when I retire. So there's some updates, and I would like to give you these updates, but let me please start to catch up for those of you who didn't attend, or for those of you who may not be too familiar with the details of specifications in Europe. When I'm talking about specifications, it's about product standards, which are typically what you want to call a specification, the description of the characteristics of a product, but also test standards, test methods. If you do not have test methods, you cannot address the performance, you cannot address the characteristics. So I would like to give you an update on where we are standing in Europe in these matters right now. When I talk about Europe and European standardization, I only address CEN. And most explicitly, I address the CEN Technical Committee 336, which is dealing with paving, or with bituminous binders, bitumen and bituminous binders, with a focus on paving applications, but not only. In today's presentation, I will focus on paving applications, and I hope for your understanding. I'm happy to answer any questions afterwards. CEN received the task, the mandate from the European Commission to set up harmonized specification for the whole European Union and the member countries of the European Free Trade Area, to set up unique and identical product standards in these areas under a framework given by the European Commission. This was expressed in what's called a mandate, and all technical committees replied to the mandate in order to transform these rather general words and general principle into their technical work. It's a technical committee. CEN TC 336 is split into 2 working groups. So working groups means they work, and they work hard, and they have a lot of work to do. Working group 1 is dealing with paving grade bitumen, or bitumen used for paving applications, and with some industrial bitumen, but I'm not going to cover these today. And working group 2 is covering bituminous emulsions and flux bitumen. We are all working for a few years now under the Construction Products Regulation. It's a regulation, therefore it's like the law in each European member state. It used to be the Construction Products Directive, which had to be transformed into national law, and now it's the Construction Products Regulation, which is given us in Annex 1, 7 basic requirements. And sorry, I always mix up these formal terms. I'm a civil engineer, you know, and I'm not so good in legal wording. Excuse that. So there, in Annex 1, there are 7 basic requirements on construction works. That is, for example, the road. There are 7 basic requirements: a road or a bridge or a house or the roof of a house or whatever construction works you can think of need to fulfill. And these construction works are made by construction products. And these construction products need to contribute to the performance of the construction works. So when we are talking about performance-related specification, it's about the contribution of construction products to the performance of construction works. And the framework for all of that is the Construction Products Regulation. Sometimes when you're working for CEN, it's not only technical work, but a lot of formal work as well. Egbert knows that rather well, much better than I do. But I need to ask for your acceptance that sometimes some decisions or some ways will not be logical from a technical point of view, but there is some legal constraints in the background we need to fulfill also, otherwise any specification work will not be accepted. Let me start with Section 1, which is product specification, product standards. Where are we right now? When it comes to paving applications, currently in Europe we have 6 product standards, 6 specifications available. You can see them here. I'm not going to read each of these now. You are capable to read. One thing I would like to point out is EN 13924. This existed for quite a while, for many years already, and it was split into 2 parts. One of them addressing hard paving grade bitumen, which was the scope of the previous 13924. And part 2 is dealing with multi-grade paving grade bitumen. So this is something new from 2 years ago. We split 13924 into 2 parts. That's why there are 5 numbers for specifications given, but 6 standards. So where are we with these? Let me start in a sort of chronological way, okay? 13808, the specification for cationic bituminous emulsions, was published 2013. It is cited in the official journal of the European Union. So this is now, after the citation, a harmonized standard, and CE marking, for example, needs to be carried out according to this standard. Unfortunately, when this standard was published, it wasn't yet the Construction Products Regulation that was the legal framework we were working in. So some of the sections in this standard still are related to the Construction Products Directive, CPD, given in here. Whoever is producing or supplying cationic bituminous emulsions will need to work according to the Construction Products Regulation. That is, some of the chapters of this standard are outdated and are no longer valid, like, for example, Annex A, and all information related to the CE marking. Suppliers do not or should not take these into account, but the Construction Products Regulation. Sorry, this is legal. It's not me. It's not an engineer's job. The same applies to EN 15322, also in the scope of WG2, on fluxed and cutback bitumen. This standard was also published in 2013, and it is cited in the official journal. Therefore, it is a harmonized standard. CE marking has to be applied, but the product is related to the Construction Products Directive yet, and suppliers and producers need to be aware of that, and they have to respect the Construction Products Regulation. Our new standard 13924 parts 1 and 2. So part 2, we always begin with the latter one, huh? Part 2 was published 2014, last year. Since last year, we do have a European standard on multi-grade paving grade bitumen, but it wasn't cited in the official journal yet. The reason for that is, before citation, you need to have the agreement of the SAN consultant, and we didn't have any SAN consultants contracted in 2014 and up to September of this year. This standard is complying with the CPD and not yet CPR. That's, sorry again, it's for legal reasons. And nearly the same applies to part 1 of 1394. So this is a brand new information. You can expect part 1 being published in December this year. It's not yet now, it's not yet published, but it will be published in December this year. The new part 1. Unfortunately, not yet cited, so no CE marking available or can be carried out to this part of the standard and complying to the CPR. Now, most of the bitumens used for paving application in Europe are so-called paving grade bitumens according to EN 12591. What's the status of this standard? And I heard yesterday at the Danube Region Conference that in many countries in this area, the use of polymer-modified bitumen is increasing. What's the status of the standard for polymer-modified bitumen 14023? That's what I would like to focus on next. 12591 is under revision, so work is carried out there. We had a systematic review last year. We have prepared a draft revised standard, and I would like to point out at the end of this presentation when your input is requested on this specification work. What will be the changes we are expecting? So in the draft now, it's still a draft and it's still work in progress. Remember that, please. What are the changes? What's new in this draft now? These are brand new information, and the draft is not yet out for any comments or so. It's within the SAN process now, but you will have the information now. In order to address needs, especially from Scandinavian countries, related to hygiene and safety of work, we will open most likely we will open 12591 tables for other test methods to address viscosity of binders. We currently have the standards 12595 and 12596, and we will allow viscosity testing using, for example, the rotational viscometer for these binders as well as the dynamic stereometer. Maybe it's worth to remember the name dynamic stereometer DSR. I will come back to that later. So the tables will be opened. Still, the reference standards for testing will be the old one, the traditional ones. But this will be opened. And we will have, and maybe you're not too much interested in that, table 3 are the very soft binders. There will be a new grade for these very soft binders requested from Sweden and Norway. What will be interesting for you maybe is a new approach in the revised 12591, introducing Annex C, a new annex in there. Annex C is shall be a normative annex, so applicable to everybody, to ask for informative properties, so information on some new characteristics. We would like to introduce them. This has been the outcome of the systematic review, that we would like to introduce new approaches in addressing conventional binders, simple binders, 12591 binders. Reported value means the supplier of the bitumen shall give these data. They have to give these data. There will be no specification limits in there, as that would be premature, but they shall give these data to their customers. Which data will we ask for? Most likely, at least in the draft. So first of all, 12591 will, in Annex C, will address the long-term aging behavior of bitumen, or the behavior of the bituminous binder after long-term aging conditioning. Long-term aging to us means rotating, RTFOT and PAV, pressure aging vessel. For the first time in our specification, we ask for characteristics on long-term aged binders. And as we think that on long-term aged binders, that is binders that are in service in a road for, let's say, 10 years, the critical factor will be the low temperature behavior, the temperature at which the stiffness in BBR equals 300 megapascal, and the temperature at which the M value in BBR equals 0.3 will be asked for information. So long-term aging is new, and we are introducing the bending beam rheometer into this. Now you may question why bending beam rheometer. We already have the frost breaking point. We know that frost breaking point has limits, especially for complex binders, but also for paving grade bitumen. And we think maybe BBR, maybe these temperatures aren't the best approach, but at least it's not an approach that's worse than frost breaking point testing. And frost breaking point testing on long-term aged binders is a real challenge. But we will also, this one I need to press. We will also introduce, here it comes again, dynamic shear rheometer, DSR. I mentioned that before, right? We will introduce dynamic shear rheometer testing on short-term aged binders, RTFOT aged binders. And we will ask for temperatures T1 and T2. T1 is where the complex modulus equals 5 megapascal, and T2 will be the temperature where the complex modulus equals 50 kilopascal. We will also ask for the respective phase angle in there. So we introduce another test after short-term aged binders, and we will introduce the dynamic shear rheometer for conventional binders as well, because we think, so the dynamic shear rheometer will most likely address, or in most terms where it's used, it will address the high surface temperature properties of a binder, and in this approach, the aging sensitivity of a binder. For high surface temperature testing, you may think, well, we have the softening point ring and ball. We know that the softening point ring and ball is an established method. But we also know that, especially when it comes to complex binders, that is modified binders, it has its limits. And in order to be able to move towards performance-related specification, where it's easier for you to compare the behavior, the performance of conventional as well as complex binders, modified binders, we need to move to other test equipment as well. For those of you who are working for authorities, for example, don't worry. The known test methods will stay in the standards, but this is information which shall be given by the suppliers of the bitumen. And it will be additional information for you to design the asphalt. Now, that has been on 12591. The other big standard, important standard I wanted to talk about is 14023 on polymer modified bitumen. This will also come under revision. Work will go on with that. We already started with the work because we had a systematic review this year. So SEN members were asked, invited, please give your views on this standard and please give your comments on this. These were collected, work is ongoing. It will be a little bit later in timing than for 12591, but I will summarize the timing in a few seconds. Let me also spend a few moments on testing, okay? I already mentioned BBR and DSR testing, and I promised that I wanted to come back to that. We do have conventional test methods available for ages, even before SEN standardization, right? Like, for example, softening point ring and ball, or needle penetration, or frost breaking point. And they have all proven their suitability for conventional, non-modified bitumen. Those we used 30 years ago. And remember, I'm from Germany, and in Germany the usage of polymer modified bitumen is on a high level. We have more than 25% of the bitumen used in road applications as polymer modified bitumen for decades. But still, non-modified bitumen are the majority of binders used, and the applicability of these test methods is good in there. There's not too much additional value from extended testing in there. But we are moving towards performance-related specification for all binders. Therefore, we need to take that into account. and especially for complex binder, like polymer modified bitumen, or we were talking about low temperature asphalt yesterday. And sometimes you use modified binders for that. Some colleagues are here who are supplying product on that. But, or you have, like, for example, rubber modified bitumen or other bitumen available in there. You come to the limits of the conventional test methods. And therefore, would very much like to take this opportunity to raise your awareness towards at least the test equipment of the dynamic shear rheometer. My personal view is, and I stated that for a few years now, my personal view is that whether it's in research, whether it's in development, and I'm pretty sure that in 10 to 15 years also in asphalt producing companies, if you want to be up to date and you really want to know what you are designing, what you are using, the dynamic shear rheometer, and I'm not supplying these equipment, right? But the dynamic shear rheometer will become a must for you. So whoever has some ideas about future investments, please keep the dynamic shear rheometer in mind. There are several standards already replying to this. We have, for years, we have 14770 as a test method to address the complex modulus and the phase angle in DSR. The European test method for the MSCR testing is about to be published in the next weeks, and we are expecting more standards to come which address the equipment of the dynamic shear rheometer. You need to have some time to gain experience, and therefore I just wanted to take this opportunity to raise your awareness towards that. To summarize, we are currently working under the construction product regulation. There are some formal changes in there. Construction product regulation requires to address the performance of the construction works by addressing the performance or the contribution of the construction products to this performance. Stand inquiry, that is the phase, that period where everybody is invited to comment on a draft standard for 12591 will most likely start in the second half of March 2016 and will end in the second half of June 2016. If you have anything to contribute to that, whether you're happy or not, whether you have technical input or whether you think this is nonsense, that will be the time where your input is requested. 14003 work is ongoing, it started. I'm expecting the work about 1 to 1.5 years after the work on 12591, so a little bit of time left there to do the work. And as I mentioned, dynamic shear rheometer will be important, will be even more important in future. This is the time when you can input, the next time for you, and the best time for you to input with your experience on the description of 12591 binders. March to June next year, your standardization body will request your comments, so take this opportunity. It's a real opportunity. Now I'll take, and sorry, I only need a few seconds now. I'm at the end of the technical part of this presentation. I'm at the end of this presentation, but I would like to ask for your patience for a few personal words in the end. When I attended this conference 2 years ago, and I was very delighted that Slovenkia invited me to that, I knew from the beginning on that I would return this year, and even if it was on a holiday, because I definitely appreciated the atmosphere. But I also experienced something that was overwhelming for me. I experienced the respect and the recognition, the acknowledgement you all had towards my former professor, Professor Arendt. That was really overwhelming. You can see it right now. I was happy to inform him about that and about the feelings, the emotions that your behavior had towards me. He's sending his very best regards to you. He was delighted to hear that he's still in very best memory to all of you. So, very best regards from Wolfgang Arendt. I'm happy to tell him that I had the chance to return here, which he always appreciated. Najlepša hvala, is that right? Thank you very much.